This episode of In the Bite Dock Talk is brought to you by Release Ruler. Release Ruler, patented weight estimating fish rulers using growth chart research to provide fish measurement solutions for safe release. Available online at www.releaseruler.com.
Welcome to In the Bites edition of Dock Talk. This is our second episode, and I'm your host, Dale Wills. And today I've got a special guest. A lot of you already know who he is. And he's an IGFA Hall of Fame captain. He was inducted in 2005. He's fished all over the world. He's basically dedicated his life to offshore fishing. And I guess without further ado, I'd like to welcome Peter B. Wright to the studio here today.
Good to be here, Dale.
All right, Peter. Thank you. Peter, just in this edition of In the Bite, March 2016 issue, it's our 15th edition. It's our 15th year. I can't believe it. But for the first time, we've had the privilege of having Peter contribute an article. So I think a lot of you will see it and be surprised that he's in the Bite. But we've talked about it for some time, and he'd like to contribute from time to time. So again, thank you, Peter. And
My pleasure.
This article was, his first article is kind of ironic because he starts off, the article's titled, Know the Limitations of Your Boat and Crew. And what this article is geared towards is not necessarily the professional crew, but more of the less advanced crew or the less advanced angler or the less advanced team getting out there. And we're just trying to get them to have a little more success out there. And sometimes people are watching or reading and they're seeing all these techniques and skills, the dredge, how to do this, how to do that. And I think what Peter has contributed here is trying to keep it simple, basically. And Peter, you can go into that. You can talk about that. You know, you've got your theory on keeping it simple. You recently fished with in the Stewart Light Tackle Tournament, and this is pretty much what brought on this idea for this article. So go ahead and talk about the beginning.
Well, we joke a lot about keep it simple, stupid. We call it the KISS formula, but it's pretty true. By definition, amateur anglers, captains, mates, the whole crew are not as skilled in many ways as the best professionals. And the very best professionals are dramatically better than the less skilled, less experienced professionals. There's a hierarchy all the way across the board. But what I would like to do is help Dale, help you guys, the fishermen, catch more fish. The more fish the amateur fisherman catches, the more fun he has, the more he enjoys the sport, the more boats get sold, the more tackle gets bought, more fuel goes through the marinas. It's good for the industry.
Right.
So I'm trying to help the amateur guy get better and catch more fish.
Great. And in this article, you transition into talking about 3 rods. Now, when I first read it, I thought, man, come on, I think more rods I have out there, 4 rods is probably a minimum when I've ever fished. I think the more baits I got out there, the more opportunity or more chances I'm going to have at catching a fish. But you want to keep it simple, and you talk about 3 rods. Explain that a little bit more.
Well, a lot of the amateur people, especially the newer ones, they don't have gigantic boats with a lot of beam. And particularly on the smaller boats, what you don't want is when you get into some action, having tangles and having lines get wrapped around other fish and get disqualified, or there's 100 ways to screw up. So keeping it simple on a small boat, what I recommended was you put out 2 rods and outriggers and 1 down the middle quite a bit further back. We go into more detail in the magazine article than we can talk about today. Mm-hmm. But with 3 rods out there, you can catch an awful lot of fish, and you get the ability to avoid tangles. Dredges are an extremely useful tool, but the amateur should probably not use them. Nobody's ever caught a fish on a dredge or a teaser. You've got to have something with a hook in it. First thing when you start fishing, put out something, a bait or a lure, with the hook in it. Second, put out something else with the hook in it. When you've got 3 baits or lures that are ready to have a bite and capture a fish, then you can start thinking about the other stuff. All teasers and dredges do is attract a fish to the boat. If you happen to land in just the right spot and you got a triple header of sailfish or white marlin or 3 dolphin or 3 wahoos, or 3 anything on, that's about as much as an amateur team can handle.
Okay, well, that makes sense, and I like the fact that you're saying before the teasers go out, before the dredges go out, get your baits out. Get your baits on the long rigger first, then get your short baits, then deploy the teasers. In the article, you also talk about, I guess you had an experience in Mag Bay where you were able to be more efficient at catching 2 fish versus, say, 4 fish. And sometimes you say that can be beneficial or be more productive when catching multiples. But I think that tends to be a scenario that you're going to have to elaborate on. That's just not a general statement as far as...
Some people that don't know me very well think, let me start that one again. Some people that don't know me very well think that I'm a know-it-all. I'm anything but. My 3 favorite words are I don't know. And I did not know what you just described until I went to Mag Bay with a bunch of guys from California, and it was a phenomenal bite. Wow. You know, all you had to do was throw out a live bait and a striped marlin ate it. And we started with teasers and things and trying to get multiple hookups, and it very quickly became obvious to me that as we threw 2 baits in the water, we hooked 2 fish. Well, instead of trying to hook 3 or 4, those other two fish are going to be waiting for us. They were just going to be waiting for a bait. Well, with 2 fish hooked, 2 points geometrically determine a line. If I went down the middle of that imaginary line between my 2 fish, no matter where they went, I could help both anglers out. With even 3 fish, I couldn't do that. And I had to take line away from one of my anglers to try to help the other 2 anglers gain line. So I found out that going 2, 2, 2, 2 was way better than going 3, 2 more, 1 more, 3. Took way longer to catch. I didn't know that until just a couple of years ago. But if the bite is really hot, I can definitely, and I'm pretty good at it, I can definitely catch more fish 2 at a time than I can with triples and quadruples. Now, if you're using line that is so heavy in pound test that you can just drag all the fish to you, that's not the same. So I wouldn't make that recommendation, say, for a guy that was fishing for small dolphin fish or, you know, school-sized tuna or something like that. In that case, he might be better off hooking 5 or 6. It might be the only opportunity to get the bite.
Okay.
So that's not all the time. That's in that one particular instance. Absolutely no question. I could get doubles and get way more fish. We wound up, you know, killing everybody that one day in this little tournament that we were in. Yeah, and we had some real good competition.
Well, I think you know, going back to the amateurs, you know, that are out there, and that's pretty vague to call it, you know, an amateur, or maybe just not the high-level pro that's out there fishing. I think you go to the keep it simple where you have the 2 rods or 3 rods, and that way you're avoiding going, you know, catching multiple. And you also need the anglers to do that too when you get the 3 or 4 fish.
There are several things to consider when you're trying to catch multiple fish at a time. And I have found that the best mates that I have ever had come on my boat generally come from the Carolinas or Florida. I've had some very good, highly regarded deckhands. I won't name them right now because it would be embarrassing for them, but 2 guys in particular, one from Florida, one from Hawaii, both with big reputations catching billfish. They didn't know how to bail dolphin. They had not worked on a charter boat where you know, had people that wanted to take meat home in a freezer. The guys that are good at catching meat fish can take their skills and go catch big game fish with multiple hookups. The guys that haven't had that experience, you know, that don't know, the captain has to know what to do with the boat in order to get a 4th line out without tangling it. This is why the amateurs shouldn't fish 4 lines. They shouldn't fish more than 3. You know, with 2, they might only fish 2 some of the time if the bite is really hot. And because if you're fishing 3 lines and you put out a 4th line, you don't get 25% more hookups, but you could easily get 100% more tangles and screw-ups. Yeah. You know, so that you're hurting your overall. Now, the top guys, the guys that win your competition, they're pros. Some of these guys, you know, grew up on a boat. You know, the first time they ever drove a boat, and it might have been a single engine inboard boat, was when their dad finally said, "Hey, Joey, take the thing over and get fuel. I got to do something." Yeah. And Joey takes the boat across the marina, and a dockmaster says, "Wow, Joey, your dad's letting you run the boat." You know, that's a kid that is going to wind up being in the top of the line. A guy that buys a boat and goes out and goes fishing, he needs help. And I'm trying to give it to him. I'm specifically offering myself to go out in other people's boats and help them learn the basics, or the more sophisticated, or the very most sophisticated techniques.
So here I am, I'm an amateur. I got my new boat. Let's just say it's a 35 or 40 foot, whatever. And I want to go out for a day fishing. And are you telling me not to pull teasers, or?
Yep. The guy you're describing should not pull teasers.
Okay. It's just going to get in the way. It's going to confuse things.
He can put out lures. Like I told people all the time, what is a teaser? And they go, well, it's something to attract fish. I said, well, shoot, you're riding on the best teaser you got.
So here I am, an amateur. I got my 3 rods out. I'm fishing for a couple weeks. I'm having moderate success. When then should I start to try to interject or put out another additional, if I, let's say a teaser or something at that point? I guess that's kind of a very subjective question, but I'm just trying to, you know, follow this lead on the 3 rods.
If you're not getting any bites, and you're pulling 3 lures or natural baits, sure, put out a teaser. I mean, you know, it might do some good. Some teasers do good. Some teasers are highly overrated. But, you know, don't put out that type of attractive device when you're getting bites. You don't need to attract anything. You're getting all the bites you need, more than you can handle maybe.
Yeah, and we've discussed too, like when, if you do have the 3 rods and you got the fish on, and you're saying sometimes the fish maybe is windshield wiping or whatever, and you push the boat backwards to get the release, your baits are sinking. Those are teasers as well, or acting as, you know,
they're baits.
They're baits.
They got hooks in them.
Yeah.
You know, if your teaser is sinking and a fish bites it, it really doesn't do you any good.
Yeah.
If you have a bait with a hook in it, and you know, guys do what they call prospecting, where they let the bait drop, because when billfish are feeding in schools, there's a difference between the small billfish that get in schools of bait and push it up and ambush it, to the big billfish that are eating big game fish of their own. I mean, you know, something that'll eat a decent sized tuna, you know, you don't need to put out a bazillion little tiny bait fish to get his attention. Yeah. So having a big teaser, but most of those kind of teasers are nothing but a lure without a hook in it.
Yeah.
So what I recommend the amateur guy do is get one heavier rod and reel, put out one big teaser, but have a hook in it. There's some downsides to that you might wind up catching a sailfish or a white marlin on a rod that's way too heavy for maximum sport, or you might catch a wahoo on it, which you would not have caught if he came in and bit the feathers or streamers all off of your teaser lure. But if you got a hook in it, you can catch him. And I've never heard of anybody committing suicide while he was filleting a 30-pound wahoo, even if he caught on a 130.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got your point there. So, you know, the bottom line is, you know, Peter, he spent, like I said, a whole lifetime fishing, and you know, he sees the value in helping people that are not at the professional level, and just getting more people involved in the sport. And the best thing you can do is take somebody fishing who's never been fishing. I mean, this sport thrives on new people coming into it. As an industry, I think we got to do a little bit better about introducing people to it. Don't go into it with an expectation that you got to go out there and fish and catch something every time either. Enjoy being out on the boat. Enjoy being out on the water. You will find success.
One real important additional bit of advice here. Sometimes catching bait is more fun for the kids that you have with you than actually fishing for the fish. And when I was charter fishing, my favorite charter was the grandfather, his son, and his grandson. Because if the kid caught a bonita or a small tuna, that's a big fish to a little kid. They pull hard. You might even have to forget IGFA rules and help the kid pull the pole up a little bit. But if then they put that bonita out and a little while later his dad hooked, and even if he lost a blue marlin, but the kid caught this tuna that was the bait that we caught the marlin on, the only thing we did all day was catch one bait, and we went home. Everybody's happy.
That's great. Well, and if anybody's got a question for Peter, you can go direct, you can go through InTheBite. You know, I thank all of you for watching. I encourage you to share this, you know, post it to your friends, let them know about this. Here we are again with another edition of Dock Talk, and you know, it's for you guys. So again, thank you for watching, and Peter, I look forward to doing this again. I really enjoyed it, buddy. So
let's help more people catch more fish and have more fun.
There you go. All right, buddy.